and the screen, maybe that would be
Yeah.
ideal if you were able to troubleshoot with it.
Okay. Um, I think it's working.
So you're just sharing your screen, and then that way it will record. That's cool.
Yeah, but you don't have to look at my screen. You can just like minimize that. Um, but okay, thank you. Okay, it's recording. All right.
Um, cool. So yeah, anyway, the first position I didn't really label, but it comes from a pretty high level Grandmaster game between Grishuk and Grishuk was playing white and another GM, Kusnidinov, who's I think well over 2600.
Okay.
Um, and this was actually a position in which it was just a matter of following kind of a basic principle. Now the move, okay, I read your comment like a couple of days ago. Rereading it now. Um, hmm. Okay, so you're making some good observations, and you had this suggestion with F3, which is along the right lines. Like in this position, White wants to open up more lines. Like White already has like a very good setup. Bishop on E5, King is very safe. Black's King is still in the center. I will tell you right away that F3 is actually just a bit too slow.
Is it E4?
E4 is by far the most principled move here. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I get that right idea. Okay,
Yeah,
got it.
and I feel a little bit bad for you because you went so deep into these lines with F3. But this is one of the beautiful things about chess is there's kind of this battle between depth and breadth. And sometimes it's not about how deep you go, but it's about like the different options you consider on the first move.
Oh, that's funny.
And
Okay, my bad.
no, I think this is a very valuable lesson because whenever, like, before you play any move in chess, especially in the middle game, you want to consider at least two, if not more, options,
Mhm. Wow.
just to give yourself a choice. In this case,
Yeah.
e4 feels a bit weird because it's like it's changing the structure. You have this very nice looking pawn chain, but like visually, we can see e4 is it should be opening things up in White's favor.
Mhm. That makes sense. I'm curious, if I play F3 and if it's too slow, what is Black's best counterplay against this to punish me?
Yeah, against f3, I was actually imagining perhaps Black could castle queenside here,
Ah, really?
and just trying because if Black castles kingside, g4 you are correct with these lines. G4 is looking very very strong
Got it.
with files like guaranteed to open up, and White having basically almost all of his pieces helping out with the attack while the queen is just out of play.
Mm.
Um, and they'd already like yeah, the lines that you gave I think were very logical. H take g4 and then going for I don't know about g5 actually. If g5 this allows knight h5,
Ah,
it's still possible. But you wouldn't want to allow Black to create this type of blockade.
hmm.
So I would think in a position like this, h5 should be a lot stronger.
Hmm.
And there's some like the idea is to play queen h2, take, and then and have some mating ideas, or at least open the h file.
Ah, got it. Okay, I see it. And then right when you were talking, I was like, oh, I saw E4. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that looks like the best move.
and yeah. Sometimes it happens where like you'll look at this position and you'll come back to it sometime later and just have a fresh perspective. Or if I start cluing you into like Black's queens in the center and you want to open up lines, e4 of course is
Hmm.
the most principled move.
Yeah, I see. Wow.
And I mean, White simply wants to open the e file. Like if Black's king stays in the center now, uh, White probably has some kind of threat of taking on d5 and playing bishop d6
Hmm.
with causing Black a lot of problems.
Oh, and then if he plays E6, then he just can't castle, and his king
And
is
the king
just
would be stuck. Yeah.
yeah.
and maybe
Wow.
knight b5 could come. So uh, there could be a number of problems for black because there's a bunch of different targets that white is putting pressure on. I mean, the d5 pawn clearly a target now attacked twice, and these kingside pieces are targets. Like the knight is pinned, the bishop is undefended. So, and of course the king. And this is like the ultimate target is to open the position so you can get to the king at some point.
Hmm. I see. I think it's because I just watched a lecture with Irina Crush on like
Hmm.
where pieces should be, and I was like, oh, this knight should be on e5, and this bishop should be traded, and I just was thinking like, how do I accomplish that? When in reality, this is like a
Mm,
whole different position where higher level, just open the position up. You already have pressure. You don't really need to exchange specifically um, to run with this.
exactly, yeah. And yeah, you'll see this as different situations call for different plans of action. In this case, I mean, this is just a very thematic rule. If you're castled and your opponent's king is still in the center, you want to open the center um, to try to attack before they can castle.
Mm.
There's another observation to realize in this position is that Black's king has really nowhere safe to be on the board. Whether the king is castled queenside or kingside, White will have potential to attack.
Mm.
And e4 is basically a move to try to provoke Black to castling one way or the other.
Got it.
So I think what I'd like to do is just show you how the game unfolded, because White
Sure.
won in pretty spectacular fashion, and I'll have you try and find some of the key moves.
Yeah.
So Black
Guess a
ended
move.
up castling. Sorry?
Guess a move was a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
call.
but only in some very specific instances.
Okay.
So okay, castle. White takes on d5. I think this is
Mhm.
very natural. Black takes back. And this is another position where okay, the position is slightly now more open. How should White continue?
Um, I would love to get my rooks on this file, or somewhere here. That'd
Sure.
be kind of cool. Uh, huh. I don't want to trade anything.
Yeah, that's very common principle. Any trade will just probably benefit Black because Black is the one under pressure.
Yeah. Um.
So of course not a move like Queen b5 or Bishop take f6.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was also thinking some moves like, uh, oops, sorry. Um. Putting pressure on this pawn, but it's not gonna work. Yeah, I feel stuck. This
Yeah,
rook
it's
was
another one of these cases where like you're pretty much completely developed. Here there's no more like obvious pawn breaks that you want to achieve.
I mean,
So this
can I
position,
get maybe here? I don't know. Huh.
yeah, this position is a matter of identifying not only okay what area of the board or what targets you want to attack, but also how you can further improve your pieces.
Oh, maybe the bishop should go back.
Hmm.
Maybe the queen can go here.
That's a very possible idea, like Bishop G3, Queen E5.
Um,
Um, the
maybe the
problem
knight
with a
can go
move like
here.
Bishop G3
Yeah.
is that you're unpinning the knight, and
Hmm.
the knight might be happy to remove itself. Even a move like Knight E8 to go to D6, and then Black will be a bit more solid.
Hmm.
So you love your bishop on E5. It's one of your best
Okay.
pieces.
Oh, I'm stuck. I'm thinking the rook left is like gonna happen.
Yeah. So yeah, lifting the rook, a move like Rook D3, I think is one of the best moves. There's another move that I'm actually surprised you didn't consider because when I show this to other students, it's one of the first things they consider like right away is to play this move,
Take? Oh.
Knight B5.
Ah.
Now Knight B5, I will say is probably not the best move. But it's an idea that you want to be aware of. Like knight b5, it looks great. You're threatening bishop c7, perhaps winning material. The problem with knight b5 is black can play a6 here. And bishop c7 is actually trading things in black's favor. Like queen take b5, and black will get two minors for a rook. Yeah. But knight b5 is something you want to keep an eye out for. And in the meantime, I think I'll just go ahead and show you the move. It's a move that you haven't considered yet.
Of course. Okay.
But it's an idea that you considered. It's just a different type of execution. It's rook h3.
Wow.
Not lifting the d rook, lifting the h rook. You want to keep this diagonal open. Rook d3 would obstruct your queen from controlling b5.
Wow. Okay.
And with this move, white is basically turning like the most useless piece on the board into one of the most active pieces.
And then later maybe play knight b4, b5.
Exactly, yeah. It's a very unusual idea that you don't see too often in Middlegame, but because the whole third rank is open, like there's no pawns on the third rank, white can develop the rook in this fashion, which is very nice.
Wow.
And now white wants to play knight b5, followed by rook c3 check and take over initiative. Got
it. I'm assuming he plays a6 here?
So a6 may have been a better move. Black played rook d7 in the game. I'm actually a little bit curious what would happen if a6. It seems a lot more logical. And perhaps this is an exercise for both of us now.
Sure, yeah. I'm wondering like where to put this knight. Because this rook wants to go here, you know?
If you can get the rook to c3, that would be golden, yeah.
c3 or, any of the A and B files.
I mean, for me, there's a move that jumps out right away. Given that the queen... It seems like the queen should have issues. The move that jumps out right away is a3. With forcing ideas of b4. Like, if we imagine white gets two moves in a row, let's say a3, b4, the queen would have two options. It can move to b6 or queen take a3, right?
Yeah. How do you make it blue?
Magic. No, it's I hold down Alt and right click.
Oh wow, I thought it was only red. Okay.
Yeah, and you can also make it orange if you hold down Alt Shift. So. Usually I just stay with like green or red, but just to demonstrate like the white's moves and black's moves, I just felt like making it blue.
Nice. Yeah. So if he takes on a3, essentially anywhere we move our knight, the rook will be.
Exactly. Now it's still a matter of execution because. B4 would be hanging, but a move like knight take d5 should be sufficient enough.
Yeah.
Actually, knight take d5 traps the queen. Okay, let's imagine a3, rook g8, b4, queen take a3, sure. Knight take d5. The queen actually has no squares. If queen a4, knight d6 check.
I see.
So that would be a nice way to finish things. The rook on h3 is very useful.
What a good move, rook h3.
Yeah, as you'll see in the game, like it ended very quickly. But I feel like a3 is good enough here to get like a huge advantage because it doesn't seem like black has any great way to create counterplay. And b4 is coming. Like rook g8 might be the best try, and b4 and then queen b6 is probably a better move. Then the idea is to play knight a4. Rook c3, knight c5, and white's just crawling all over black.
Nice.
So anyway, let me show you the game. Rook d7 was played, and okay, the finish is very nice here. Knight b5, going for rook c3. a6 was played, and now black is attempting to chase away the knight, and white does have to be precise with execution. So Rook c3 was played.
Mm-hmm.
King d8. And now, let me just get your first impression here. What's the first move that comes to mind?
First move comes to mind is checking. Um, but
Yeah, bishop c7. Yeah.
it looks like it loses.
Wait, why?
Wait, does it? I don't know. Wait, takes, rook takes, right? Oh, you take with knight. Wait a minute. Check, rook takes. Oh, I see. The knight's protected. Okay. Phew,
Yeah. Now,
got it.
I will say this is another case where it's important to not just have depth, but have breadth. Because
Mhm.
bishop c7 is like the most obvious move.
Yeah.
I will say bishop c7 is messy. If we try and calculate some lines, like bishop c7, it does win material. Rook takes c7, rook takes c7. Or
Yeah.
even knight takes c7, let's start out with. Black gets some counterplay, because this knight is a bit stuck. Black has a move like knight e4. And it's actually not clear. Like, if we play this out, it's not clear if white is clearly winning here. Black
Sure.
has a lot of counterplay.
Sure.
Like, this rook has nowhere to go to stay defending the knight. So this could already be turning around.
So I'm assuming that when the move was played.
Um, yeah, I also wanted to show just one more line. If bishop c7 and rook takes c7, this also looks good because white won material, white's threatening mate in one.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it runs into knight e4, and again, it's a bit messy, and you wouldn't want to go into this if you don't have like a very clear follow up as white.
Sure.
So yeah, bishop c7 looks playable. I see the arrow for rook a3.
That was just things that came to mind.
Okay, sure.
I didn't calculate it fully, but um,
Keep considering options. What else can white play? Like, what would be another reasonable move to consider?
rook c. I want to bring my other pieces to the game. Is that the right idea?
Mm, eventually you do, but you have to realize, like, black has a very clear threat here. Black just wants to take the knights. So it's really about holding on to your knight and keeping initiative, not letting initiative fall in black's hands.
Interesting. Um, so it's a knight move, but these squares don't make sense.
One of them actually does make sense. One of them is having a very strong threat.
See this?
Knight c7 doesn't really attack anything.
Oh, I see.
Knight a7, threatening mate in one.
That's so hard to. That's so weird to find because you don't normally put your knight on
It's
a7 or.
very unusual. Yeah, the knight looks completely out of play, but the mate threat is so strong. If you realize black has so few resources to defend against mate, then it's possible to find.
Wow.
And this is a very big theme in many different types of middle game, kind of like attacking positions, where it can be very, very important to keep the initiative, be able to continually make threats without allowing your opponent much counterplay. So this game, like starting with the move e4, white was keeping the initiative throughout the full game.
Yeah, I've noticed that's the main theme of all these games you showed me. It's just threat after threat, and
So yeah, it doesn't always happen like this perfectly, but there are many cases where if you're resourceful enough and you're able to improve your pieces while making threats, it can only lead to more threats. So there's many cases where this is an amazing strategy if you can execute correctly.
Sure. I'm assuming he plays King E8 here.
King E8 is one move, which we could analyze. King E8 runs into Rook C8, Rook D8, and then Bishop C7.
Ah, nice
White
move.
is now winning a decisive amount of material.
Hmm.
So what was played was E6. And I really like the way white finished things off. I'll just go show you the next. I think the game just ended in a couple moves. White played queen f3 here. Now improving
Wow.
queen, targeting the knight, which has been pinned pretty much the whole game. And now it's less defended. Black has one way to defend the knight, which is king e7. And now white is able to make use of this knight on a7, very direct knight to c8 check.
Wow.
So I really like the fact white was able to attack from all angles. And like it was amazing piece coordination with the rook coming in, the knight coming in, queen attacking on the king side. So the game ended in just a couple more moves after rook takes c8, rook takes c8. Black played rook d8, and then icing on the cake was bishop c7.
Bishop c7. Wow.
And black just resigns.
That's
Now, I
fantastic.
think this was a blitz game, but okay, the quality of white's play was incredible. And like black was still very strong GM, so to win like this, even in blitz against a strong GM, is it's pretty impressive.
That's a really great game. Oh my gosh.
So yeah, and it was all it's all started with this really important center break, pawn e4.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see this a lot in middle games where pawn breaks can really they can help transform the position in your favor. They can lead to a lot more ideas when it comes to improving the pieces or attacking the opponent. In this case, e4 not only opened up the center, but it opened up the third rank for the rook. So, so yeah, I think there's many different lessons to apply from this game, or just like half of this game, starting with move 13.
Nice.
So yeah, hopefully this is something like you can maybe gain some weapons from, or kind of understand or recognize when you're in a situation to perhaps open up the center in your favor and then really grab onto the initiative as early as possible.
Yeah. This is nice.
So yeah, do you want to move on? Take a look at the next one.
Yes, please.
Which was actually, this one was a bit different. It felt like it had a very similar theme.
But it was different. Oh,
it was a bit different. Actually, what I want to do, I want to give you a different position. Just, I'm going to say find the move. I just want to play through a quick game. And I want you to find one of the key moves. Okay. This position, feel free to make some quick observations. Black is already doing very well here. I want you to tell me the first move that comes to mind when you're looking for moves for black. Yeah, okay, bishop a6, simply preventing white from castling.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the other position. Because again, you actually considered two different options here, d5 and e5. But there's actually there is a different option in this position.
Really?
Which I think is important to consider. Oops, I didn't mean to get rid of the arrows. My bad for that.
No, it's okay. So how do you stop black from castling here?
So actually, I want to take you back to just a few moves. How we led up to this position. This was a game that I played. It was a pretty good opening for white. It was opening preparation through queen d4, basically forcing black to play f6, and then black was a bit awkward. And then it was actually starting in this position. I realized white's main goal should be to prevent black from castling. So then the next few moves for white aim to just control this diagonal, starting with bishop c4.
Yeah.
And then, okay, the bishops got traded, the queen is controlling g8, and then black tried to take some measure to block the,
He played e6.
block the queen.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, sorry, I keep pressing the down arrow. So black plays e6. So the idea that I want you to look for here is to to play a move which makes it bad if black were to castle. Or I guess would make it good, really good for you if black were to castle.
Yeah. I wonder if I can attack this pawn somehow. Or,
It's hard to do. I
yeah.
mean, I guess the moves you play do attempt to slow down black.
Hmm.
There are some drawbacks with them, which we'll get to. At this point, I just want you to try and look for other candidate moves. Another way to think about it, like let's imagine black castles, and you have two moves in a row. What sort
This?
of tactic can you generate? A4, A5, that's one very possible option.
Okay.
Um, it's
Uh,
very possible. What else?
this way?
H4, H5.
Uh,
Less attractive, but I mean, yeah, the issue with H4, H5 is you're already castled kingside, so your rook's not in H1.
sure. Man, just my my default is just to play a normal move like this or something. And
Right.
yeah, so
Okay, let me give you maybe a better clue. In this position, you can actually improve one of your pieces that looks to be on a good square, but isn't really doing too much.
this bishop?
The bishop, yeah. I mean, it's okay. It's on a center square. It's defending the pawn, but it would much rather be on a different diagonal.
Something like this?
Possibly. What other diagonal? What other dark square diagonal could you potentially control with your bishop? Because you're looking at this diagonal. What other?
This one?
Keep searching.
No? Here?
Yeah, this one. A3, F8.
Ah, wow.
Starting with bishop D2.
What a maneuver.
Yeah, it feels very strange to like move backwards, uh, and perhaps maneuver a piece which already seemed to be on a good square. But now the point is that if black castles, there's a simple skewer.
Hmm.
And black clearly doesn't want to castle queenside, because that would be pretty suicidal with A4, A5 coming, and with the half open C file.
Yeah. But you knew
So
that you knew your goal was not to let the opponent castle
yes,
when he weakened both his king side and queen side.
yeah. And now the issue for black is when the bishop comes to B4, the king will never be able to castle kingside.
Hmm.
So the move my opponent played in this position was maybe like the best idea. It was to play king F7,
Force the castling.
trying to castle by hand. But then the king ends up just being aligned with the queen, and I will go ahead and show you what ended up happening in the game. I mean,
Sure.
White is able to build up a significant advantage from here with a lot of other different types of middle game ideas.
Hmm.
I think what I would like to do is just go through the moves that you suggested and maybe point out why or how black could meet them.
Sure, sure.
Maybe starting with E5.
I think D5 was better. E5 I think was
E5 is certainly a candidate move. There's a major drawback with E5. Maybe two major drawbacks.
mhm.
Um, First drawback I would notice is this D5 square. White is just giving it to black. And black doesn't even have to take right away. Black is very happy to leave this pawn on D4, which is now just a backwards pawn.
Mhm.
And yeah, you could trade on F6, but black will castle, and it's completely fine for black. Even if black has isolated E pawn, you have an isolated D pawn, and this would be actually a pretty balanced position.
Sure. Hmm.
D5 is certainly a better try, and I like the spirit with this move. And okay, you gave some lines here. I think a lot of these lines do end up turning out nicely for white. I was thinking black has an idea to first take with the C pawn,
Mhm.
and then okay, you actually gave two options as white, queen rook F D1, and then E take D5. We'll start with rook fd1 because you do have the right intentions to build up pressure and try and open the position. The problem with rook fd1, it's a bit slow, and black just has a simple response to castle here. Doesn't have to play queen e7. And whenever you take back the pawn, black is happy to play e5.
And then he's a blockade. Everything's pretty solid.
And it's just it's a central blockade. This pawn looks strong, but it could be weak in some cases. f5, e4 could come, and like, this position could turn out to be very fine for black. Even though white might have some pull, like if you play rook c1 threatening bishop c5, you have some initiative, but black could probably just neutralize. And it would be a fight.
Sure.
But normally, especially with these center pawns, you don't want to execute the break unless it's very clear that it's benefiting you. And in this case, black was able to essentially just take the pawn and make sure the center closes down quickly enough. Or when you play d5, even if you take back right away, the line you gave knight take d5 would certainly be very nice for white, but again, e5 could be played for black.
Yeah. Makes sense. I gotta think like high level like this. I gotta think like, black wants center closed. How can he not open the center? Just push. Instead of like thinking that assuming that he'll trade and exchange stuff, when in reality he might not even trade or even retreat his queen back to e7. He can just castle. Yeah,
and sometimes it requires you to like think from the opponent's perspective, like what they want to do, how they're going to try to best meet your ideas. The thing, like the very big factor about the strategy and this kind of middle game position was patience for white. Being patient with the maneuvers and looking to play restrictively before going for some immediate attack. So this sort of example contrasts a lot with the first game we saw, where it was just all-out initiative. This is more about patience.
Got it.
And starting with some prophylactic moves. So I'll go ahead and show you. A lot of these moves I won't have you find because I think they're all very logical, and once you see them, they should make sense. And I think what I'll do, I'm just going to copy the game into a new chapter.
Sure.
It's just easier to import. This game somehow made it into the database. It's a game that I played back in 2013. Okay, hopefully this works. Okay, so bishop d2, king f7. And now I use this idea a4, very simple threat of a5, so I keep some initiative, and black has to respond to this. Queen d7, a5, just kicking the knight back. Knight c8, pretty sad square for the knight, and then bishop to b4. So within just a few moves, I've kept initiative, I've improved my bishop, and now black is very restricted, like this rook is stuck, so knight isn't really happy on c8. So he played rook e8. And now my plan was to eventually play d5. But I realized black is really slow to unravel, so I just wanted to optimize my pieces before I go ahead with a pawn break. So I play rook d1.
Yeah.
There's bishop f8. This is another kind of principled example where white does not want to trick pieces in a position like this. Because I have more space, I have more potential for attack, I simply drop back to c3 because black is just so cramped. And he plays king g7, getting off the diagonal of my queen, but getting on the diagonal of my bishop. I continue improving, rook c1, a6. And now this is a point I can probably go for d5 and be happy, but I figured I would keep improving. And especially after he played a6, I realized my knight would be much happier on c4. where it can help control some very key center squares, and this b6 square, which is a very glaring weakness.
Mm.
So I play knight d2. Just a simple maneuver.
So I have a question on this because you talk about how you could play d5 right now, but then you
Mhm.
also could just maneuver your knight and be patient. I guess when is the time to strike and when is it a time to maneuver your pieces? Like,
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess one thing I didn't mention, which I'm pretty sure played a role in this game, my opponent was taking a long time, like in the opening and like early on in the middle game, because he was under pressure, and I felt like if I played d5, I would give him some very easy moves. It was very clear he would want to take and go for the same idea by closing down the position.
sure.
And then it actually leads to a position where like his pieces can come out pretty naturally and he can play several good moves relatively quickly. So I thought I was in a situation where I can kind of maintain the tension and just improve while he has to kind of sit and suffer, where it's not entirely clear what Black wants to do.
I see.
And by the end of the game, like I was massively up on time, and just because he was thinking for so long, and like these various points where it's just not clear what Black wants to do.
Got it. So it just sounds like if he had no other things to do, there's no rush to open things up. Just continue your plan. And unless he has threats of his own or like piece activity of his own, then
Right.
that's when you should consider moves that are more forcing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's very important, like during a game where if it's a classical game and you have enough time to think, you want to be like hyper aware of what your opponent is doing at all times, and be aware of the situations where it might be difficult for them to come up with ideas.
Yeah.
It was clear in this position, like Black had very few ideas just because I'm controlling so much space. And whenever I push a pawn, it would start giving Black easier types of play.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So it still took a lot of work to actually convert this position. But okay, I wanted to improve everything first, and now I go for d5. And he went for this idea, take, and then e5. But I realized I could improve further while restricting Black with this move bishop to b4, just controlling the d6 square. So he can't even play knight d6. And
Yeah.
because this is a passed pawn, like I already have ideas of playing pawn d6. Which I don't think I ended up doing for a while. I was focused more on restricting. He played rook b8. He wanted to push the b pawn. I played bishop c5, restricting the b pawn, which he just ignored. He played b5 anyway, which just loses a pawn because I want passant. This is the whole point of bishop to c5. But this is a moment where like he was just completely stuck. Like it's really not clear what Black should be doing here, and I guess he sacrificed a pawn trying to make life easier.
Yeah, that actually makes sense because the rook is pinned. Maybe I don't know, something can happen.
Yeah, I mean the problem is b6 is so well defended that it's going to cause him even more headaches. But, okay, he plays queen e3 or queen to b5. I play queen e3. And then I get this nice formation with like b4, and then everything defends everything. So king e7. And this was another moment. Like I was in no rush. Like I could potentially, maybe I should have played a different move than h3, but I was just trying to just improve, avoid any long-term like back rank mate, and just see what he was up to.
That's so funny because you're so in control.
Yeah, I mean, objectively, it's probably not the best decision, but from a practical standpoint, I was just waiting for him to give me some opportunity, which he actually gave me. He played f5, which weakens e5, and I was able to start targeting the e-pawn, the queen c3. Defending the pawn, or attacking the pawn and over-defending the knight. So now the idea is not only to take on e5, but to potentially play rook a1 and rook a5. So, okay. Lots more moves. Bishop d6 was a nice move given I attacked the pawn and the rook, and if he takes on d6, I would just fork him.
Mm.
So go forward a bit quicker here. I did end up winning the e5 pawn, so now I'm up 2 pawns, the very menacing d pawn. Triple fork. Now the finish to the game was kind of weird because I was in complete control, and at this point, after rook c8, I just kind of hunkered down and calculated and realized that I have just a way to liquidate everything, and it's essentially a forced win. I could like retreat my queen to e4 and probably eventually win with this d pawn, but I realized I can just take on c8.
Wow, push. Wow.
Yeah. It's actually a thematic idea. A pawn attacking a knight on the back rank leads to bad things for the player with the knight. Now the calculation had to be precise because after he takes, he has 97, but now this pin is resulting in white winning some kind of material, just knight c6. And I remember it was important he didn't have queen a1 here because rook.
I saw that too, yeah.
But yeah, so he just took, and then we just get some endgame where I'm up to exchange. h4 is a final prophylactic move, just preventing king g5, and then at some point I'll walk my king to c4 and take the pawn in a6.
Okay. Nice.
So this game was, it was another demonstration of like middle game strategy, but it was completely different from the first game. And I think these two examples hopefully coincide well to show that, different positions call for different strategies. And this game is all about restricting the opponent.
Got it. Yeah.
Starting with this move, bishop c4, really was like the first move, which really gave black these kind of lingering problems with the king in the center, and the fact that white had good control over the center the whole game. It just kind of snowballed into really good things for white.
Sure. Yeah. Can you repeat again about when to keep the initiative and when to like be more restrictive and play in like when to play in certain manners, like in game 1 and game 2? You mentioned the explanation, but I would love to hear it one more time, if that's okay.
Yeah, so, it really depends on what attacking resources you have in the position. Like in this position, black actually had a very solid defense, like a solid defensive setup, where my breakthroughs, they didn't quite work out just from a concrete standpoint. In the other game, white's pieces were so well better placed, and black had so many more potential targets that were either insufficiently defended or just easy to attack.
Yeah.
That it made the attack flow very nicely.
In
this position, the flow wasn't quite there for white.
Because the resources weren't there yet. Like the rooks weren't in the right places.
It was about improving the pieces first. And then later on in the game, it turned into like, once I played d5, it was, then it led to like very nice things where I had some initiative and it had some flow with all the pieces being on good squares. But sometimes when you can't, or you don't see a clear way to grab initiative, but you still have a good position, or you still have, it's very common to play like this when you have like a very big space advantage or just really good control over the center. You just want to grab more space and try and be greedy with the amount of squares you control, especially within the opponent's territory.
Got it. I'm excited to see the third game because it sounds like in the third game, black has a really solid setup. And white, yeah, like there's not much to attack. And
now I don't want to disappoint you, but I don't have a full game for this. This is this is just like a classic kind of positional exercise. I've given a number of students before, and it's really just a thematic moment. Um, let's see what you have actually concluded with bishop g5 because you want to improve the bishop. You want to play queen d2. Okay, before I go into like discussing what white should be
Sure.
doing, I do want to ask you, what's your plan after h6?
I don't know. H4.
Oh dear. Okay. Yeah, h4 I think is a bit too unsound. Now, I will say, like sometimes this idea is there's actually one game that I would recommend going over at some point. It's a game between Karpov and Tiemann. And the beginning of like Karpov's masterpiece started with this idea of bishop g5, where he provoked h6, moved back to e3, and then played queen d2 with tempo to attack the h pawn.
What's the guy's name? TM?
Tiemann. Yeah. And what I would recommend, I'll type it in the chat.
I wrote it down, so I appreciate it.
Okay. There should be you should be able to find it in either a book or a like YouTube video, because it deserves to be analyzed with care and with understanding Karpov's like really deep positional ideas. So I'm actually curious myself if there's a YouTube video that exists.
Yeah, so I'm curious at the queen d2, he plays king h7 and...
Well, okay, let me explain the problem here, because the Karpov-Tiemann game, it's not the same, like, this exact position. Yeah. The problem here, if you go for this idea, or even if you go for bishop e3 immediately, knight g4 is really annoying. Knight g4 kicks away the bishop. The bishop could get kicked around even further, like if it moves to f4, there's pawn e5. If it moves to d2, you lose this pawn. If it moves to c1, you haven't accomplished anything in life. So, going back, this is a position where you should realize, like, okay, your position is nice. You're controlling the center. You would like to develop this bishop. It's the only undeveloped minor piece. But you can still be patient. And you have a few different ways to... there's a couple different approaches here. But you want to be aware of what black wants to do. And black has a couple of different ideas depending what you do. Like if you play bishop to e3, that could immediately run into knight g4.
Sure.
If you play some other move, let's say you improve your rook without waiting to, or without developing your bishop right away. Black actually is really happy to play bishop g4 and trade off a pair of minor pieces, even though black would be giving away the bishop pair. Black wants to trade off a pair of minor pieces just because he has a space deficit.
Interesting.
And this is a sort of structure where when you're white, you want to make sure that all of the minor pieces stay on the board.
Because you have a lot of more space?
Because you have more space and black is inherently cramped. And really the thing to realize is this bishop g4 move is really the only logical developing move for the black's light squared bishop.
Got it.
So the move to play here is a simple preventive move. h3. Preventing bishop g4, preventing knight g4. And now you could probably, like, once you play h3, then you can go along with your initial plans, or at least some plan of developing the bishop and going for queen d2, while black is a lot more cramped.
Got it. Okay.
And that's really the point of this position. I do not have a game to show, unfortunately, but I will say actually there's been well over a dozen games played from this position. If you look in the opening explorer, which you should have access to.
Nice. I don't think I have access to that.
No, you don't, because I turned it off just in case it would be on during guess the move.
Yeah.
Let me turn that back on. Opening explorer.
Yeah, interesting.
But this is another thing you can do when you just like find a game and open and explore it. Now you should have it, right?
I see it now. Wow, leeches is so fast.
Yeah, everything's like instant. And you should use a master's database.
Yeah. I see, wow, I see 7 games or actually a lot of games in here. And all of them are white wins or draws.
No, White has amazing score with this move. Yeah, and it's not surprising. Now, one thing I didn't mention is that D5 is actually the most popular move in this position.
Yeah, I see that too.
But I think H3 we can see is like the highest scoring with still 7 games,
Hmm.
and I think it's a principled move. Like if White wants to play D5, he can play it later. For
Yeah.
H3, it's just a useful move to start with. Then it might
Wow.
make sense to like insert a game like this Jiang Xuan game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll look at it after this call. Cool.
if you wanted to like see the full game and maybe do guess the move from here. Like a lot of White's play is still like improving and perhaps playing in similar style as we saw in the second game where White just wants to play restrictively and kind of build up the slow so-called squeeze.
Got it. Yeah. Hmm.
So so yeah, that wraps up the first 3. I think that there's a lot more to cover between the 2 Gessa moves and this additional study that that I do have prepared. So let me know like where you would like to head. Perhaps I could give you some overview of the next study and show you perhaps what to work on for next time. We can go through the games and if you have any questions about the games, but let me know.
Sure. Yeah, I guess for the last like remaining couple minutes, I would love to just quickly go over, I guess, one of the games, the guest
Oh yeah,
mode
sure.
games, like number 4, for example. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe just go over like the key moments, and then I would love just like a minute to go over the next study or whatever you have prepared. That'd be
Of
fantastic.
course. Sounds good.
Uh,
Um, yeah, for this game, yeah, your comments were funny but helpful.
yeah,
Um,
Queen
this
G3.
is a game I played actually not too long ago, just what was it like 6 months ago? Or no, this was back in December, so maybe like 8 or 9 months ago, and I got completely smashed. I was playing black. You
Oh,
saw what
you were
happened.
black.
Yes,
Oh.
it was pretty traumatizing. It was a tournament I played in Australia, um, and it was. I'll actually give you some advice, which is like non-chess advice, but it applies to chess.
Sure.
I played 2 events in Australia last year. They were back to back, with no rest days in between. Each event was 9 days with 1 game a day.
Wow.
So I played 18 days in a row with a game every day, and like a lot of the games were like over 4 hours. So like over 4 hours of like really serious play
Yeah.
of chess. And this was probably my 15th or 16th game in a
Hmm.
row. And I was just so tired, and it was, I don't want to blame it fully on fatigue, but you can see I just like got completely killed. And Queen G3 was actually the start of a very popular opening variation these days to trade queens just to weaken black's dark squares.
Hmm.
And the problem for me was I did not manage to develop quickly enough and solve the issues of b6 and d6. Now I played a really like knight c6 was actually a really bad move,
Really?
allowing bishop b6. What I should do is play b5,
Hmm.
push the b pawn before before white can blockade it, so the bishop can come to b7 and the rook can come to c8. This would make life a lot easier.
Hmm. Interesting.
But after knight c6 and bishop to b6, this is already where very big problems begin. Bishop to e7. And a lot of this was just like restrictive chess, and it was just a matter of white improving the position. Knight a4 was very, very strong. Making sure that b6 is under control. And like with a piece on b6, like everything is stuck for black on the queen side. Like I was out of my rook and bishop were out of play the full game. I don't think they really escaped the full game.
No, I don't think so.
And c4 was another nice move, just creating the outpost, anticipating king c7. So a lot of this was natural play. It was just nice positional play. And then bishop h5 surprised you. Why can't black play g5 here? I think the point, I'm trying to remember why bishop h5. I think he didn't want me to play g6 followed by h5. So it was another like preventive move. But white had so much time in the position that he can do anything, and I'm just stuck. If I go for g5 here, he can probably just ignore it. Like, he can probably just start building up on the queen side, like as what he did in the game, like a3, and then just keep advancing like this.
Yeah.
If I ever play rook here, it's going to weaken the h6 pawn, and he could then probably play a move like bishop f3.
Wow.
So, yeah, I don't know if bishop h5 was necessary, but it wasn't too relevant in the grand scheme of things. But we can see from like very early on the knight or the bishop or knight being on b6 just plays an incredible restrictive role. And I was probably lost around the time that I played this knight c6 move from early on.
That's crazy because it looks so natural.
I know, yeah. I think there may have been one point like where I had to sack a pawn. So if we go back to bishop b6, was it? I think it was it this position? It may have been this position where my best move was not to play rook b8, but to play something like d5 and just sacrifice a pawn just to unravel.
Sure.
Where I would just like be down a pawn, but at least my bishop could develop, and I would have some hope.
Sure.
I didn't go for that because I was playing a much stronger player, or a equally as strong player, and I thought being down a pawn was almost as much of a losing advantage or losing disadvantage.
Yeah.
But it was probably the best try in hindsight. But yeah, I thought this was a great demonstration of like building up, like just finding all the perfect squares for the pieces, and then there's this final amazing checkmating idea, which I just couldn't stop. I saw it coming from a few moves prior, but there's no way to stop it. Using
so good.
Yeah, knight to d5. I was gonna say knight a8 almost works as well, but then king b8. But yeah, it was a pretty nice mate. Them sacrificing two minor pieces.
Yeah, fantastic! Wow.
So yeah, it's nice to like kind of build up a knowledge base of like these nice positional games or attacking games, just to kind of it's more about building up a tool set. That when you get into middle game positions of your own, you'll have some ideas to reference, or you might be inspired by some potential ideas that you've seen before. Because when stronger players play chess, or at least when I play chess, I'm constantly reminded of things that I've seen before in high level games. I'm able to then start applying those into my own games, which can lead to very good things.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And it looks like also you added like 2 extra chapters here. Are there extra games you think I should look at too?
Yeah. So the what was it, the Janowski game? Yeah, these are games which I would hold off on looking at.
Okay.
Because I think those were games I intended if we had extra time we could go through together, because it takes a bit more explanation.
Hmm.
And there's some very deep things which I think would be suitable for another time. It's one of my favorite ever like positional games in chess.
Mm.
And that's another thing which I'm sure you can find a video on. Janowski. I know for a fact that St. Louis Chess Club channel has a video on it.
For sure.
And Chess Network should too. You can actually find if you do a YouTube search, you can find already I see 3 videos. Okay, there's so many videos on this game. So pick a video author that you like, and then maybe
Sure.
we just watch the video and play through the game.
Okay.
And then the next video I'll share with you are a series of games, again for solitaire chess.
Okay. Will you add it to the same chapter or same study or a new study or?
I'll invite you to a new study because these are all like attacking themes.
Yeah.
And I would say I
Is it,
might have to label these. Now, when you play through the moves, you're not looking at the notation. You're trying to figure things out on your own, and then you
I'm
play through.
trying to, yes.
Yeah, you can hide the notation if you click the menu button
Oh, really?
next to the board, and then you can still use the arrow keys to play through the moves.
Wait, where is the high notation? I see inline notation.
Well, it's already hidden, but notation's still there. So just when you press the menu button, that's
Oh,
what
I
hides
see.
the notation.
Oh, it literally hides it. Okay.
Yes. So let me okay, Tampan. And I'm labeling the chapters. So like chapter 1, you want to look from Black's perspective. Chapter 2 is actually something to talk about together.
Hmm.
Oh, chapter 2 is a game I gave you previously.
Okay.
Give you chapter 3.
So you recommend the same thing as that for next week? Like look over these games and we can talk about them as well.
Yeah, I think that would be that would be a good approach. And then try and go through and like record the moves that you guessed too, and perhaps identify where or why your move is different from what was played in the game, because that's sometimes how you can make the best revelations.
Sure. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah.
So the first 3 will be new games, and then if you get through those and you want more, let me know. But I think the
Sure.
first are good ones to start with. Just gonna label this one. Start guessing. 11 for white. Okay. Okay, yeah, you should be good to go. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, thanks, Eric. I appreciate this. Learn a bunch more, just challenging more assumptions of mine.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And I can also recommend, like, if you have the time, like, to try and still play some slower games on online, which is always nice to continue playing to integrate what you're doing into your own games.
Sure, like 15-minute games or like 45 longer games?
Yeah, probably 15 or longer, but
Hmm,
15 should really be the minimum, or the shortest length that you play if you're looking to play seriously. Of
got
course, you
it.
can play like Blitz or Bullet for fun, but for serious training games, 15 or longer.
Got it. Yeah. Okay, Eric, I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. I'll let you
Yeah.
go. So have a good day.
You too. I'll see you next week, same time.
Sounds good. Great. Take care.
Okay. Later.
Bye.